Guys, coming to another movie for you guys, and I know it's been a while since I've done a movie review, but I am so excited to finally review this movie, and not only because it was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and I was definitely really looking forward to it, but I also was just really hoping this would be as great as it was, and it was one of the movies that when Marvel announced all the Marvel movies that was coming out, this was one of the ones I was definitely most looking forward to. I know a lot of people were looking forward to this, and that is the first movie to kick off the summer movie season, Captain America Civil War. Guys, I was hyped out of my mind for this movie for a couple reasons. One, Avengers Age of Ultron I thought was a very good movie. I really did enjoy it. But yes, it was a bit disappointing. It wasn't as big in scope as it could have been. It wasn't as much of a detriment to the Avengers and really didn't change as much as we thought it was going to. But it did set up some really nice roadblocks for Civil War, and that really made me excited for Civil War. And the more footage I saw of Civil War, the more I got more excited for it. And I wanted to remain low-key, though. I didn't want to be disappointed. I was worried that this movie was really going to disappoint me because of how great all the footage looked. I'm like, oh, right, this looks amazing. But then I was thinking, oh, but this happened with the Age of Ultron. They had all this stuff and it wasn't even in the movie, or they had stuff and it just felt jumbled and rushed, and I was really worried it was going to happen with Civil War. But you could really tell that they want to take their time with this, and I have to say, because of that, I'm not even going to lie to you guys, Civil War is a masterpiece. Captain America Civil War is a masterpiece. I think it's the best Marvel movie we've had so far. Honestly, I personally think this is better than the Avengers. Yes, we'll never get a movie like the Avengers, but this is just on a completely different level. And honestly, this is Marvel's The Dark Knight. It really is. I mean, in the way that DC had The Dark Knight, this is Marvel's The Dark Knight. I mean, this is really the movie that shows that Marvel knows their shit, they know what they're doing, and definitely you see that here. But let's get to the plot of Captain America Civil War. There's so much to talk about this movie, but let's get to the plot first, because I want to just go ahead and just, basically rant and rave about this movie. Not rant, but rave about this movie, talk about why I love it so much, and talk about why it is such a great movie. But basically, the plot of this movie, you guys probably know the plot from the trailer. Basically, we see that the Avengers, they are a team, but they're causing a lot of damage. A lot of it being caused by them taking down these, bigger threats, but destroying buildings in the process, which actually killed a lot of people, and a lot of, people were killed, and a lot of buildings were damaged, and it really is starting to become a problem. We see there are many cities that have been, broken. There are many people that have been dead, and at this point, the government is starting to, they're starting to wonder if the Avengers can be this private organization anymore. Maybe they need to get the government involved, basically, when they need them to, and this really creates this big conflict. We see Captain America, is essentially against it. He feels that they are supposed to be their own team and they don't need any help, while Stark really isn't to the idea. He thinks that they should try it out, and this really becomes a war between these two, but also because of Bucky, who Stark thinks is the main reason that all this violence and corruption is happening, and really thinks he needs to be brought to justice, while Cap is trying to prove that there is still some good in Bucky, and that really is the plot of Captain America Civil War. I really did love the plot of this movie, and that's one of the things that makes the plot so good. The plot is very vague, and that's something I love, is that from a that plot, yes, it's really big, but there's a lot more to this movie than just that plot. The movie is not just them trying to prove that, yet, it's not just this conflict. There's a lot more to it, and I definitely really love that. Let's get to the acting in this movie, which, without a doubt, is the best acting we have had from the entire franchise. I mean, everyone was on their A game here. Everyone gave an amazing performance. There was not a single weak performance in this movie, and this movie had a lot to do. There was a lot of groundwork laid for this movie. There was a lot they had to set up, but I think they really did it perfectly. But of course, at the end of the day, this is a Captain America movie, and I'm glad they really did make it a Captain America movie, because the movie's called Captain America Civil War. It's not lying to you, and Chris Evans is the main focus of this movie. Cap is the main focus, and he kills it. He kills it in this movie, not just in big moments where he is completely against, Stark, but also smaller moments, like something that happens earlier in the movie that I'm not going to spoil. There's a lot of emotional stuff that's happening for him, and especially some of the moments with Bucky. A lot of this is really him trying to get his friend back. He wants to see that Bucky that he grew up with, and not this corrupted, brainwashed Bucky that everyone thinks he has become. He wants to prove that that Bucky is still there, and you really see that he has that determination in him. He's very optimistic, and that's something that Captain America's always had. He's a figure of optimism for the world, and you still see that in this movie. He really is trying to stay optimistic, and I really did love that, and I think he did an incredible job. Chris Evans, he just kills it more and more. I remember when I saw the first Captain America, I remember he was really good, but he was still developing the role, and I think as the movies go on, he's getting better and better, and by now, he really has not only establishes the role, but I really think when we think of Chris Evans, we're going to think of him as Captain America, and he really just kills it here. He did an incredible job. There were some incredibly emotional scenes, and he just did an incredible job with all of them, and Robert Downey Jr., I think, was just as great as Stark, because here's the thing, this isn't Stark's movie, but in many ways it is Stark's movie just as much as it is Cap's movie, and that's something I thought they handled really well, because the movie is called Captain America Civil War, but a lot of people say, yes, it kind of is a mini Avengers. I wouldn't say that. I'd say it's more of a character study in the way that these characters are and things like that. Stark has a lot of trauma going on in his life. For example, stuff with Pepper and him dealing with him having to burn the Iron Man suits and things like that. And he's actually now a college professor, which is very interesting, which I thought was a cool direction they took his character in. And you understand also why he is against Cap. He's not just against Cap to be against Cap. He has genuine reasons for it. And this clashing between them is really great. They don't just clash over this. They're clashing over a lot more things. And it becomes a big conflict that really, I thought was developed really, really well. It's taken very slowly, but they did it really well. And I love the idea of go big or go home, really, because that's what this was. You need to go big with this, and they did a great job. You can see that inner rage on Stark. You can see why he wants to take down, why he, is essentially against Cap, and I think they both did a great job, and they're not necessarily against each other completely. I think it's, there is a lot of betrayal and frustration going on here, obviously, and a lot of clashing, but in many ways, they're just trying to get the other side to agree with them and trying to get the other side to show why they really need to do this and convince them, which is very interesting. I really did love seeing that. I think they both did an incredible job. And I think they both were amazing, definitely. They did a great job here. But just as important, I think, as Tony and Cap are, as Stark and Cap, is Sebastian Stan as Bucky, who I think was even better in this movie. Look, Bucky was a big character in Winter Soldier, yes, but we didn't find out all the stuff about Bucky that we did to the end of the movie. And while that movie, I think, gave us glimpses of who Bucky really is, this movie completely proves who he is, because basically the idea of this movie is to prove that the real Bucky is still in there, and to see Bucky's character. He's gone through a lot, he's dealt with a lot, and you really see that throughout this movie. They really fleshed out his character very well, especially a lot of really shocking things come out of this character that I wasn't expecting. He did an incredible job. Sebastian Stan killed it, and I have to admit, Bucky Barnes' story, I was into it, but I didn't really remember it, and very quickly I'm like, this is incredible, I loved it, and I think they did a great job with it. Definitely, he was great. He did a great job. ScarJo, of course, is great as Natasha, of course. The thing I like about Black Widow, though, is that, again, you understand why she's against them. You can totally understand that, which I thought she did a great job with. One of the characters, and Anthony Mackie has a lot more to do in here as Falcon, which is something that I really love. Something that I thought was really cool here is that even though, like I said, Stark and Cap are the main focus of this movie, everyone else gets just as much focus, and, their characters are focused more, like Falcon and Rhodey. They're focused on a lot more in this movie than they were in the previous films, and I really did like seeing that. They added, Falcon had some really great comedic humor, as did, of course, did, Vision. Oh my god, Vision was hilarious in this movie. He did a great job. Paul Bettany just kills it. But you also understand that what he really wants to do, and he did a great job with that. I thought he was really great here. And then Jeremy Renner is really great, of course, as well. Someone else I thought that didn't really get to shine as much in the last movie was, of course, Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. There's a lot going on there. The fact that she has these powers, she's starting to understand things about herself, and she kind of is starting to wonder if she can harness this, if she should embrace it, what she should really do about it, which I thought was very interesting. I really like the direction they took her character, and she really did an incredible job. Paul Rudd, of course, is great as Scott Lang. Some of the funniest scenes in the movie. It's awesome to see him back and as Ant-Man. He did a great job. Frank Grillo is in the very beginning of this movie as Crossbones, which is kind of like their little mission in the beginning. I think he did a really good job with that. But let's talk about the two I know you guys really want me to talk about, because like I said, this movie actually did have a lot to do, but it was very low-key about it, in the sense that, yes, we do have two new characters in this movie. Actually, a few new characters in this movie. But it never felt like it was too much. First of all, we had Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, and he was fantastic as Black Panther. Very well. They very quickly established what the point of it is, why they're showing him, why they needed him. Someone who basically, hasn't been with the Avengers and pretty much is just recruited, and really is just there because he's had experience with Bucky in the past from something that happened that I won't tell you guys about, but basically he's had experience with Bucky in his past, and he's kind of just there as kind of like another voice of reason. Is Bucky really a good guy? Should they trust him? It was a very interesting direction. I really love seeing him, and I can't wait to see the single Black Panther movie. But the one guy that really impressed me in this movie, the one guy we really have to talk about, is Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Oh my god, he was so good. I remember when Spider-Man, they said he was going to the Marvel Universe, I was very excited, but then when they cast Tom Holland, I'm like, alright, I really had nothing against him. I'm like, alright, he was really good in The Impossible, let's see what he can bring here. Kills it in this role. I mean, he didn't take this role too seriously, and that's perfect. You don't need to take Spider-Man too seriously. Spider-Man's supposed to be kind of just a fun kid, and that's exactly what he is. He's a nerdy kid. He is a kid that dumpster dives. He's not very rich. He's kind of poor, actually, and he doesn't make the best suits, and I really think they handled his character very well here. It was a lot of fun to watch, and Tom Holland, I think, really just killed it in this movie. He was a lot of fun, very funny, and definitely, I love the dynamic that him and Stark had. One of the best parts of the movie, without a doubt. He did a fantastic job. I loved seeing Spider-Man in this movie. He really did a fantastic job. One of the best things. And then, of course, the only other thing I really do want to talk about, like I said, there's a lot to talk about. The only other character I really do want to talk about, who I don't think is really getting enough praise, is, I think, the main villain in this movie, Daniel Brühl, as Zemo. Now, I heard a lot of people say, oh, he's just the typical villain, but I really didn't see him the way. I saw him as a very motivated villain. He has a specific reason for going against all of the Avengers and for doing what he's doing and why he wants to defeat them, which is very interesting. And the direction they take his character in is actually really dark for an Avengers movie, and I really did appreciate that. He did a great job, and definitely he was really great. So everyone here was fantastic. Everyone really brought their A game. There was no one that really was half-assing it. I really think everyone just really, even people like Hawkeye, who isn't really a big part of this movie, still is a big part of this movie because they really did bring their A game and really did treat this conflict like a big deal, because it is a big deal, and I really love seeing that. And I really think a lot of that is the directing by the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers know how to write a very complex, intense story. We know that from Winter Soldier. What they did here, though, was that they had even more of a task, because in Winter Soldier, of course, they had to focus on three key characters, that being Cap, Black Widow, and, of course, Nick Fury, who Nick Fury's not even in this. Nick Fury's kind of gone at this point, but here they had to focus on so many characters, and it did not at all feel convoluted. It felt more like this was one big story, and that they all were a part of one bigger story. Yes, there's subplots in this movie, but they never feel like they're coming out of nowhere. They never feel like they're not concluded. Everything feels concluded in this movie. It feels like one big story, and that's something I think they did really well. And the tone here, a lot of times the movie's a lot of fun. That's something I really do want to stress, is that while people are thinking, oh, this movie's gonna be really dark, it's actually a lot of fun at times. In fact, the first two halves of this movie are a lot of fun, and that's something that's great about the Avengers films, that you can have fun with them, and you can have fun with this movie. Yes, this is significantly darker than the other two movies, especially when we get to the climax. Oh my god, I can't wait to talk about that. But the directing here was great. I think the tone was great. They knew when to be funny. They knew when to take it seriously, and that's something I love, is that while it is fun, they know when to take it seriously, and we know how great they can do a serious story, and I think they really handled it perfectly, and they really made a more personal story, and I really did love that. The screenplay here is, without a doubt, the best screenplay we have had. I mean, like I said, The Avengers was a great movie. It really is. The point where we got to see all the Avengers fighting and everything, and we'll never really get another movie like that again. But what this did was really expand upon that, expand upon these characters, show what else we can do in them that we haven't done before. And there's so many new things that we do with these characters we haven't seen before. I mean, them getting into a whole war, them fighting against each other, and them really having all these consequences for things that really were meant supposed to be heroic deeds and really have backfired for them. It's a very complex situation. You can really see that they don't really know how to handle it. They're kind of just, I feel like Stark kind of just is doing it because he thinks it's the best thing to do, while Cap clearly has another way of doing things, and I thought that was very well handled. But the thing I love most about Captain America Civil War, in my opinion, is not just that it's a great superhero movie, it's a great movie in general. I mean, this really is a fantastic story. It's a great movie, and take away all the superhero moments, it's still a great movie. It's a movie about corruption and betrayal and things like going too far and morality. I mean, it really explores these darker issues that, yes, they might have explored before, but I think they might have glossed over a bit, and this movie really takes them head on, and I really love seeing that. That's something that they just did perfectly here, and they really executed, I think, to its fullest potential, and I absolutely love that. It's a very witty screenplay as well. Some of the lines I think are going to be classic lines, especially like ones uttered in the trailer, like, of course, sometimes I want to punch you in your perfect teeth, and some of the lines in the trailer I think are misconstrued, like when Stark says, for example, you were my friend, he's not trying to say, oh, you once were my friend and you betrayed me. He's trying to say that I'm not going to treat you as a friend anymore. I'm not going to go easy on you. Because at first he does think of going easy on Cap, and then something happens which I won't talk about, but basically it gets crazier and crazier, goes on. And I like that this movie really didn't go from 0 to 80. It really tried to be slow with the conflict, because it does need to be a slow conflict. For a while, this is actually background. A lot of the movie is focused on Cap and Bucky's relationship, and I really appreciate that, because that's a big part of the movie. That's a big thing that we dealt with in the Winter Soldier Soldier, and we need to deal with here, especially since this is the third Captain America movie. It's not just, an Avengers movie, it is the third Captain America movie, and we need to remember that, and I really like that they put Captain America first and this part second, and really, they both felt like conclusive stories. They both came together very well, and the Bucky story is part of a bigger story, and I really love that. That was fantastic here. Now, the one thing that, even if you didn't like this movie, which I can't see how you don't like this movie, honestly, if you guys didn't like this movie, I can't understand why. It is without a doubt the strongest entry we've had from the Marvel series so far. You have to admit that this is without a doubt the best cinematography we've had. I mean, every scene here is so polished, and every fight scene just looks incredible. They did not half-ass anything here. The fight scenes look amazing. The CGI is incredible. I didn't see this in IMAX, but really, this is an incredible movie to watch in terms of cinematography, in terms of scope, the powers and everything, the way they do that. I mean, the cinematography, they do not half-ass these things. They really handled it perfectly, and I absolutely love that. The score here by Henry Jackman is really great. It's, sometimes tragic, it's sometimes really funny, and really epic. You get that epic feel. Now, you don't hear the Avengers theme in this movie, because again, this isn't an Avengers film. It is a Captain America film, and I like that. One, because the Avengers are dividing this movie, so we didn't really need that Avengers film. We didn't really need that Avengers theme, because the Avengers aren't really united. We know that, of course, it's united, we stand, divided, we fall, and very much that's what's going on here, and I really love seeing that. I thought the score was really great, and the fact they kept that Avengers theme out of it, I think really added to what they wanted you to feel about this movie. They want you to get that feeling that things are broken, and you really do feel that here. The editing. I can't stress how fast this movie went for me. I mean, this movie is 2.5 hours, and it felt like an hour to me. I was into it the entire time. And there were times where I was worried, is this going to get too long? But I was into it the whole time, every scene. And here's the thing with this movie. This is a movie where they are always moving. It's a very slow-paced movie, but every scene, something is getting done. And I love that. There weren't any filler scenes in this movie. Something's always getting done. Something's always getting accomplished. And that's when you know that they're really trying to move forward. They really put their fullest effort into this movie, and I can't stress that enough. They put their fullest effort into this. I've really enjoyed that. But let's talk about the action scenes here, because these are without a doubt the best action scenes we have had in the Marvel series. I mean, every action scene here is fantastic. There's actually a lot more hand-to-hand combat than you expect. A lot of the movies actually hand-to-hand combat, and I really did appreciate that. We know from the Winter Soldier that they do a very good job with that, and it's just as intense here. Every scene feels big. Every action scene I was into, I thought they were awesome. There wasn't a single action scene that was like, oh, that's boring, or that just feels pointless. Every action scene felt like it was getting to something bigger. I really loved seeing that. I thought that was very well handled. Now let's talk about the airport scene. Everyone's been talking about it. It is an incredible scene. It really is. The amount of stuff that happens, and the amount of, the amount of laughs in that scene, the amount of fighting in that scene, the amount of just combat and division in that scene, the amount of stuff that gets done in that scene, that really is why I think people are praising the scene, because shit gets done in that scene. There is no half-assing it in this scene. People get hurt. People do get, I'm not going to say anything, but people do get hurt in that scene. People, powers are enacted. People are really fighting. You have Spider-Man who's kind of being an asshole, but other than that, but you can see really does want to help the group, and I thought they did a great job with that as well. By the way, Marissa Tomei was really good. I forgot to say that. Marissa Tomei I thought was very good as well. I liked her dynamic with Robert Downey Jr. I really think the airport scene is definitely one of the best scenes I've seen in a while. I mean, it was awesome. I loved it. But it's not the big scene I definitely do want to talk about, which let's just jump into spoilers, guys, because I really want to talk about the spoilers in this movie. There's a lot to get into, and more than usual, honestly. I mean, there usually is a lot in Marvel movies, but fairly a lot of stuff in this one. A lot of what I loved about this movie is involved with the spoilers, and let's just get into it. Okay, so I knew this movie was going to be big. I really did. And I heard most people say that this was basically what Batman v Superman should have been, and I really do agree with that. I mean, the conflict we get here, the ending of the movie is kind of similar to what they tried to do with Batman v Superman. We know, of course, Batman v Superman, they had Batman, and of course, guys, if you didn't see Captain America Civil War, don't watch the rest of this review, obviously, but basically, of course, as you guys remember, we had Batman who, of course, his mother's name was Rachel, and his mother's name was Martha, and so was Superman's mother. They both bonded over that, and it just didn't really work. You can really tell what they were trying to do here. This was so much more effective. The fact that we got that one scene in the beginning, where you could tell we were in 1991, something was going on, we didn't know who was in that car, and then next thing we saw, they were in an operating room, we didn't know what was going on there. The scene with Stark, where Stark basically at first thinks that Bucky's is right, that he was in the wrong, and that Bucky wasn't in fact corrupt and that Bucky really had nothing to do with this. At first, he thinks that Zemo framed him and that Zemo really framed Bucky and that there are other Winter Soldiers out there, because as we were finding out in this movie, there are other Winter Soldiers, and that Bucky was trained with a bunch of other Winter Soldiers, which really adds this cool dynamic that Bucky was brainwashed and that none of this he really did on his own. And one of the things that he was tasked to do, we find out though, was in fact kill, severely hurt Howard Stark, probably, severely killing him. I don't think he killed him, but he severely injured him and straight up killing his mother. And the scene where Stark finds out that, Bucky killed his mother, it's a crazy scene. I mean, the way that was done, I thought was just crazy the way that was handled. I could not believe the way that was done, and the way the scene was done here, I thought was just insane. I mean, it's crazy stuff. It really is. I mean, and of course, before all the other stuff we found out up to that, where we find out that Barnes was framed by Zemo, and that Zemo wanted to punish the Avengers for his family's deaths and everything. You really do understand that Zemo was hurt by the Avengers because they did hurt his family, and he wanted to pay for that. He really wanted to get revenge on them for that because of the damage that they did. But of course, his way of doing it was to kill their family members, and of course, that made Bucky kill Stark's mom, and that is when this crazy fight just breaks out between, Cap and Stark, and it's a crazy scene. It's not at all restrained. This is a scene that is full on, these two battling it out, these two trying to basically come to terms with each other, but realizing that there really is no other way to deal with this. They've tried to be rational about it, they just need to fight, and the way that this was done was incredible. The way that Zemo in the background is basically revealing everything to Hawkeye in the scene, everything to Black Panther, that Black Panther, which you saw the Black Panther, he was there, he was going to kill Zemo. I thought that he really was going to do that, and he basically has fractured the Avengers. His plan did in fact work, and Zemo basically thinks that he attempts suicide. That's his way out of this, but of course Black Panther tells him, no, you are not getting out of this. That is not how you're going to end this. And that scene where you see, you see Cap and you see Stark, they're battling it out, and Cap basically puts his shield right onto Stark. I mean, that was insane. The way that was done, he puts it near his heart and everything. I honestly thought that they were going to kill Stark. I really thought that was going to happen, but then I thought, wait, he's in Spider-Man Homecoming. How's that exactly going to work? Then I thought Cap was going to die. I really thought someone was going to die here, but I'm honestly glad no one died. Why? Because we still have Infinity War. This is only the beginning of a much bigger conflict. Infinity War is really going to be the biggest conflict we've had. There are going to be characters that die in there. We're going to get the Guardians of the Galaxy in there. We're going to get everyone in there, really. I'm hearing rumors that even the X-Men could possibly get in there. I mean, really, it's going to be a crazy movie in terms of scope, and there's a lot of things to do there. But the thing with Infinity War, I think, is that is the much bigger movie. Civil War is big, but again, it's just the beginning. And I like that the movie treated as the beginning because it really is just the beginning. It's not the end. And the end of the movie, these two are fractured, obviously. You can see that, he is still going to be loyal to the Avengers because they promised that, but they're never really going to be the same again. I mean, it's going to take a while for Cap and Stark to recover from this damage. You definitely do see that. I like that you saw Rhodey. He was okay. I thought that was a very good scene with Rhodey and Stark. Obviously, I thought Rhodey was going to die, but I'm glad they didn't kill Rhodey. One, because I don't think he would have been the one to kill in this movie. Two, I think it just added to the bonding between Stark and Rhodey. You need to keep that bond in there. And then, of course, I did like that Bucky decided that he needs to be into stasis, basically. He needs to put himself into stasis until a cure for his brainwashing can be found. It's just the best thing for him to do. And, of course, Black Panther, we get to the post-credit scene, Black Panther grants them immunity, and that he really is going to ally with them, and that he's going to be part of this, and they really is going to help them fight. And it's a very good scene because, of course, Black Panther was a third party. He wasn't there to set on joining them. He was set on taking them down because he thought that Bucky did in fact kill his father, which of course Bucky didn't, which I don't really think Bucky ever admitted to killing his father. I feel like we're sort of meant to think that, but I don't think he did. I mean, I don't really know, but we know now that in fact Black Panther does want to ally with them, which I definitely love seeing. And then the ending of the movie where we see Peter, he's recovering from his injuries, one of Webster's protecting Spider-Man symbol on his bedroom ceiling. I love that scene, thought that was awesome, definitely really did appreciate that. Overall, guys, this movie was extremely satisfying. I mean, everything I wanted from this movie, I got. There was nothing I didn't get here. We had a very well-established conflict. It was dark. It was gritty. I mean, I couldn't believe how crazy that climax was. I was biting my nails. I mean, I can't tell you guys how crazy, I mean, how much I was into that final scene. I was honestly on the verge of tears. I really was. It was crazy to see everything you wanted Batman v Superman to be. This movie is, and I'm not bullshitting it, guys. Captain America Civil War, I'm just going to say right now, it gets an A+. I'm not gonna lie. It gets a 5 out of 5 or an A+. I am not bullshitting you. I am not saying that, this movie Could have been any better? I don't think it could have been any better. I think they did it to its fullest potential. I think it has no problems whatsoever. Without doubt, the strongest Marvel movie we've had. It goes in some really deep places that I didn't expect it to go, and that's enough for reason for me to recommend it. But also because the way the story was executed, they didn't execute, like I said, they didn't go full speed in this movie. They realized that there are other things to develop, and they definitely did understand that. But overall, guys, my review, Captain America Civil War, please see this movie. Will without a doubt be on my top 10 list. I can't wait to see it again. I'm definitely seeing it again in theaters. I can't wait to see it again. I know you guys saw this movie, have seen it, love to hear your thoughts on it. I absolutely love this movie. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for either Arrow or The Americans. I don't know which one, probably The Americans. And we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.